Okay, let's jump right in. Today, we're doing a deep dive into an airline that, well, gets a lot of attention, maybe not always the good kind. Spirit Airlines.
Yeah, it definitely has a reputation. People call it America's worst. You see the memes, the horror stories online.
Exactly. Terrible customer service, they say. Fees for absolutely everything. Seats that sound, less than comfortable.
Unmemorable is putting it mildly, based on some accounts.
So our mission here is to look at one specific traveler's story, someone who actually documented taking two Spirit flights, to see if it lives up or maybe down to that reputation. And honestly, based on what they shared, there were some surprises right away.
Right. And it's interesting because we're taking all that online buzz, all those general feelings, and comparing it just to this one person's detailed trip.
Yeah, not a huge study, just one real experience.
Did it match the narrative? Let's see, based only on what this traveler reported.
Absolutely. So let's start with check-in. The traveler, based on what they'd heard, was kind of bracing for the worst.
Uh-huh. The online system actually told them they had to see an agent.
And the website specifically mentioned a $25 fee for seeing an agent in person. So not looking great.
You'd think, okay, here we go, first fee. But here's the first unexpected twist from their account.
Yeah. What happened?
They went to the airport kiosk instead.
Yeah.
Just tried it, and they said it was, and I quote, incredibly easy.
Seriously. Just like that.
Yep. Printed the boarding passes right there, no problem. And crucially, they didn't get charged that $25 fee.
Wow. Okay, so the website says one thing, potentially pushing you to an agent and a fee, but the kiosk worked fine and was free,
Oh,
at least this time.
exactly. It kind of flips the script on that expected check-in hassle,
Yeah.
and it leads right into the whole budget airline model they describe.
Right. The core idea, the ticket itself is super, super cheap, like unbelievably low sometimes.
But that's where it starts. The trade-off is you pay extra for, well, pretty much anything additional, as they put it.
That's the game, isn't it? And this traveler actually listed some costs they saw.
Yeah. $58 for a carry-on bag
58 for a carry-on.
and $48 for a checked bag.
Oh, right.
If you wanted to pick your seat, that was another $21.
Oh, okay.
They even noted the price for first class, which was $157 extra. And of course, food, drinks, all that costs extra too.
They mentioned bundles, right? But said they didn't save much?
Yeah, they acknowledged bundles existed, but felt they didn't reduce the costs by much. So pay-as-you-go is the model.
But here's another interesting little detail they shared, something positive you don't hear often.
How was that?
They said Spirit actually had really good size for the carry-ons and personal items, better than other budget airlines they'd flown.
Huh. Like their regular backpack actually fit as a personal item?
Yeah, they said it was way better in that specific regard, compared to others where their standard stuff wouldn't fit.
Okay, so that's a definite point in Spirit's column, at least from this traveler.
Hmm.
Easy kiosk check-in, maybe more generous personal item size. But yeah, lots of add-on costs.
All right, but the real test, is the flight itself. Being stuck in that seat for hours.
That's exactly. Let's get into the flights. First one, they were put in section 32. How did that go?
This is where their experience seemed to line up more with the negative reputation. The description was pretty blunt.
Mhm.
Seats were most uncomfortable, like sitting on concrete.
Oof, concrete.
Yeah. And very little knee room, especially being in a middle seat. No entertainment screens, no headrest, no recline button even.
Wow, basic.
Very. Tiny tray table, and they mentioned the plane looked a bit worn, like dirty flooring.
Okay, so pretty bare bones and uncomfortable. And didn't they mention something odd about the bathroom?
Oh, yeah. Get this. On takeoff, the bathroom door apparently swung open.
Whoa.
Right? Though they did add that later the bathroom itself, while small, worked fine and even had a changing table.
Still, a swinging door on takeoff is memorable.
Definitely. But maybe the most memorable negative from that first flight, according to their account, happened coming in for landing.
The smell.
Yeah, this weird foul smell started pumping through the air conditioning. They described it really specifically.
Like a nail salon, right? Acrylic and acetone.
Exactly. They said it was really unpleasant, kind of strong, just weird.
Okay, concrete seats and a chemical smell. That sounds pretty bad. Hopefully the second flight was better. They were in section 21 this time.
Well, based on their report, yeah, it actually was noticeably better.
How so?
The seats in section 21 were described as way better, more leg room, which is huge,
Mm-hmm.
and significantly more space under the seat in front for bags, plus bigger, more traditional tray tables.
That's a big difference just moving forward a few rows. Any idea why? Different plane, maybe?
They didn't specify in the account, just noted the stark contrast between Section 32 and Section 21 on their two flights. It makes you wonder about consistency, right?
Definitely. But even these better seats weren't perfect, were they?
No, not entirely. They were still just as stiff as the first flight's concrete slabs.
Ah,
And the armrests apparently weren't flush, so you couldn't really lean or get comfortable easily.
okay, so better space, but still stiff. What about the bathroom on that flight?
They mentioned the back bathroom was more spacious than the one on the first flight, so another improvement there.
Got it. So variability even within the same airline on the same trip. But there was one thing they said was good on both flights.
Yeah, despite the seat issues and the smell on the first one, the actual flying part was smooth.
Ah, the pilots.
Exactly. They described both flights as having smooth sailing with very little turbulence and super solid landings.
Well, that's arguably the most important part.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's try and synthesize this one traveler's experience.
Okay.
On the plus side, surprisingly easy airport check-in, potentially better personal item sizing, and interestingly, really good interactions with staff.
Yeah, they actually said all the Spirit employees they dealt with were really good, which kind of flies in the face of the usual customer service complaints, right? At least for them.
Based purely on this one account, yeah.
Yeah.
But then you balance that against the actual in-flight experience.
Which they called probably one of the worst I have ever been on, citing those concrete seats and that bizarre smell.
Right. It really comes down to that final point they made. The price.
The defining factor, those flights, just $25 per person for the base fare.
Incredible price. And their conclusion was pretty clear based on that. If you want quality, comfort, amenities, Spirit isn't it based on their trip.
Eh.
But if all you care about is getting something super cheap to go from A to B and you're traveling really light, pretty much no luggage at all.
Then, in their words, it's a really good deal.
It really highlights that stark trade-off, doesn't it?
Totally. Rock bottom price gets you potentially very basic, uncomfortable, maybe even smelly travel.
But with these unexpected positives, like the good staff interactions this person had and the easy kiosk check-in.
It definitely makes the America's Worst Airline label seem a bit more nuanced, at least through the lens of this specific journey.
So reflecting on this single account, it leaves you, the listener, with something to think about, doesn't it? Given the huge gap described here between the low cost and the challenging in-flight reality, how much discomfort are you actually willing to put up with to save a chunk of cash?
Right. When it's just about getting from point A to point B, what trade-offs really matter to you? Is it the seat, the potential for weird smells, or does that